Wolves had already mastered Tottenham at home in a league game. It looked like they might do it again. A first-class goal by Wagstaffe.
Wagstaffe to Wakwa. Oh, and what a goal!
They didn't count his crosses. They didn't honour his lungs. They didn't let him in. He was a winger built for war, not for marketing. Not for the suits at Lancaster Gate. Dave Wagstaffe. Played with a rolled cigarette between halves. Played like the touchline was a blade and the fullback was already bleeding. He gave Wolves over 400 games, laid on goals in Europe, scored one against Arsenal so pure they gave him match of the month, then gave him nothing else. He played through injuries, fought through managers, never complained, never begged. He crossed for others. He was rarely crossed in return. And when they finally wrote him into history, it was for a red card. First ever man sent off in English League history, not for a tackle, for speaking, because some players weren't built to be worshipped. They were built to be played, and remembered, by those who actually watched. Subscribe if you remember the ones the system forgot, because this is one of them. David Wagstaffe, born 5th April 1943 in Openshaw, Manchester, a city of coal smoke, bruised knuckles, and boys who learned football before they learned fear. He wasn't born into football, he earned it. Scuffed shoes, cracked concrete, and wind that didn't forgive mistakes. He played on the streets, no cones, no coaching. Just instinct, ankles, and noise. And across those same streets, another boy chasing rhythm, not goals, Davy Jones. 2 kids, one with a ball, one with a dream of America and a guitar. One became a monkey, the other became Wolves' silent thunder. By 17, Wagstaffe had already made his Manchester City debut. They threw him in with the men, and he didn't blink. He gave 144 league appearances, learned how to take a late tackle, how to run into space that didn't exist, and how to stay silent while others shouted. It wasn't glory, it was education. But Manchester City, fractured, impatient, rebuilding, never truly saw what they had. In the winter of 1964, on Boxing Day, David Wagstaffe was sold. No farewell, no headlines, just a train south, toward a club that didn't know it yet, but was about to receive one of the finest wingers it would ever see. The deal was quiet, no back page splash, just a train ticket, a bag and a winger they didn't know what to do with. Wolverhampton Wanderers had just been relegated. The old empire of Stan Cullis was crumbling. The shirts were heavy, the silence in the dressing room even heavier, and into that walked David Wagstaffe, slim, left-footed, Manc accent that didn't beg. He didn't talk systems, he talked space, he talked movement. With his boots, Wolves paid £30,000 for him. Some called it reckless, others called it desperate. They were all wrong. What they got was time. A player who wouldn't just stay, he'd last. Debut versus Middlesbrough. New shirt, same mentality. Touch the line, kill the fullback, deliver before they hit you. In those first weeks, he didn't dazzle. He disrupted, kept his head down, let the ball do what he wanted. By the end of that season, he wasn't just adapting. He was building the left flank around his rhythm. No flash, no noise, just control. The club didn't know it yet, but they'd just signed the man who would outlast every manager, outlive every tactic, and become the heartbeat of Molineux for more than a decade. By the end of the 60s, the fog had lifted. Waggy wasn't just a player anymore. He was the plan. Touchline to byline. Outsmart, outlast, outcross. He didn't glide like some showman. He ran like he was chasing something only he could see. And by the time the fullback reacted, the ball was already gone. During 1966-67, Wolves climbed back to the First Division. Waggy played every single league match. 48 games. No rotation, no excuses, no pain shared. The reward? More brutality, bigger crowds, and whispers from the stands. Not about goals, but about a winger who played like he'd been here before. Then came the snow. 1971. Wolves versus Arsenal. He picked the ball from 35 yards, took one look, and smashed it. Match of the day called it goal of the month. But to the fans at Molineux, it was something more, it was proof. He wasn't just reliable, he was dangerous. During 1971-72, Europe came calling. Juventus, Ferencváros. Then Spurs in the UEFA Cup Final. Waggy scored at White Hart Lane. A response, a fight back, a statement. But Spurs still won on aggregate, and Bill Nicholson said it straight. Wagstaffe frightened the life out of us. That's who he was. He didn't need a headline. He gave you a headache. His left foot wasn't kind. It was cruel, precise, unbothered by praise. And when the years caught up, he didn't beg for pace. He adjusted, read the game, made the ball run instead. While others screamed for attention, Waggy just kept delivering. Until the game finally noticed. Too late. He gave everything, and they gave him silence. No cap, no call, no place in their picture. Dave Wagstaffe didn't play the press, didn't know the back doors, didn't kiss the right hands. What he gave was crosses. What he gave was consistency. What he gave, they never counted. He'd stood in the same England youth teams as names they later celebrated. He'd played every week while others rotated. And yet, when the lists were made, his name was never there. Ramsey's England had no use for wingers. No love for the wide men who built the game they now tried to reinvent. The World Cup changed tactics and erased artists. Even when he made the Football League and Thiedin in 1972, it felt more like a gesture than a door opening. The whispers were louder than any explanation. He smoked. He spoke plainly. He didn't hide his disdain for systems that didn't reward work. But no one ever said he wasn't good enough. Teammates knew. Fans knew. The men defending him every weekend definitely knew. He should have worn the shirt. He earned it. Week after week. Mud, blood, no complaints. Instead, he wore the silence and let the football talk for him. They say he played his best football under Bill McGarry. But don't mistake that for love, or even respect. What McGarry gave him was structure. What he took was voice. Waggy was a winger. McGarry, a sergeant. And when their paths collided, the club had no room for both. He didn't like his jokes. He didn't like his questions. He didn't like how the fans loved him more than they feared him. McGarry was football's cold hand. No nights out. No leniency. No excuses. Even when Waggy's parents lived 3 minutes from the team hotel, he was told, call them if it matters. Not visit. Not leave. Call. The biggest blow came later. When Blackburn asked to sign him, McGarry's answer was clear. Waggy didn't forget it. If he doesn't sign today, he can come back and rot in my third team. That wasn't a joke. It was a sentence. And yet, Waggy played on. He played for a manager he didn't respect. He crossed for strikers who said nothing. He fought on pitches for a club that barely fought for him. The board? Worse. Cheap bonuses, no Wembley souvenirs, no trust. After one final, he admitted playing with a bad thigh injury, but lied about it just to get on the pitch. Why? Because he knew. If I tell the truth, they'll leave me behind. Wolves loved his delivery, but not the man who delivered. He wasn't rebellious, he just wouldn't kneel. And in that silence between system and soul, Waggy kept crossing. Until the touchline gave out. It was never about violence, but that's what they remember. 2nd of October 1976. Leyton Orient versus Blackburn Rovers. 2nd Division. Rough pitch. Rougher players. The game was chaos from the first whistle. Elbows, shoves, late tackles, voices rising. And then it happened. The ref reached for the card. Not yellow. Red. Dave Wagstaffe. The first man in Football League history to be sent off under the new card system. They gave him the honour of being first, but not the truth. He didn't throw a punch, he didn't dive in. He spoke, argued the booking, said too much. The ref snapped. Out came the red. Waggy walked. No drama. No scene, just walked. He'd been kicked harder than that. He'd been ignored harder than that. But that red, it stuck. Decades later, they'd still mention it before they mentioned the goals, the crosses, the European nights, the 400+ games. In truth, that match wasn't different from dozens he played. Rough, bitter, ugly. The kind where nobody came off clean. But history picked that one, to attach to his name. He didn't whine, didn't beg to be cleared. Because that's what football was then. Scraps, scars and silence. He just kept walking. And the system, it kept pretending he was only ever a red card. In 1967, football sent him west. Los Angeles Wolves. Same badge, different continent. Waggy stepped off the plane. Into sun, smoke and promises. He wasn't just there to play, he was there to sell the sport. American owner Jack Kent Cooke had a vision. a global league, a golden winger, a new poster boy for football in the States. And Waggy, he delivered. Wolves won the league, beat Aberdeen in the final. He played on baseball fields, in front of cameras, under skies that didn't know who he was. But someone else did. Davy Jones, the same Openshaw boy he'd played football with. Now a monkey, a star. He came to see Waggy in LA. The rumours started. He'd leave football. He'd join the Monkeys touring crew. A road manager. A second life. The club in LA wanted him to stay. To sell boots instead of crosses. To trade mud for lights. But Waggy said no. He went back to England. Back to Wolves. Back to the cold. The dream had knocked, and he walked away from it. After retirement, he never chased glory. He ran the Queenscliff Hotel, worked Bispham Conservative Club, tended bar at Butler's Arms in Bushbury, then Old Wolfrunians Club, then finally Waggy's Bar inside Molineux. That should have been the last chapter, but even that they took. A clash of personalities with the bar boss. He left his own name behind. No drama, no press. Just gone. He never had pundit money. He never asked. He had pubs, stories, and Wolverhampton. That was enough. He never asked for honours. He never chased their plaques. But time has a way of circling back. January 2013. Wolves finally called, not for a match, but to place his name where it always belonged. Hall of Fame. No fanfare, just recognition. Just something that should have come years earlier. They handed him the honour. And within months, his body began to break. A heart attack in April. He made it through. Surgery. Silence. Strength. Then came the illness that wouldn't leave. He stayed quiet. Didn't make it public. No interviews. No campaigns. August 6th, 2013. At home in Wolverhampton, Dave Wagstaffe died, age 70. The fans knew, and Wolverhampton didn't look away. They lined the streets. The cortege passed Molineux in silence. No PR, no headlines. Just heads bowed. Men who saw him play standing shoulder to shoulder. Boys who never saw him holding photos their fathers kept. Inside St. Peter's Church, his family stood strong. Val, his partner. Barbara, his former wife. His children, Mandy, Gary, Scott. His grandchildren, Rachel, Chloe, Zach, Saul, Josh. Real names, real people. No noise, he was never rich, but he was never forgotten. Waggy didn't retire into legend. He retired into pubs, into quiet clubs, into Wolverhampton's everyday. And that's exactly where he belonged. Because some players aren't meant to be brands. They're meant to be remembered. By memory, by bruises, by goals you never saw coming. Dave Wagstaffe. No cap, no shirt, no apology. Just football. Subscribe if you remember the ones the system forgot. Because this was one of them.